Lanny's translucent membrane flexed against her skin as she adjusted the neural implant at the base of her skull. The cloaking field shimmered around her lithe form before settling into perfect invisibility. Bred in the bioengineering chambers of Vexar Prime, she was the culmination of 4 generations of assassin genetics, enhanced reflexes, augmented strength, and modified neural pathways that eliminated hesitation during kills. She had infiltrated the modest suburban home 3 standard rotations ago, mapping every corner, every potential escape route, every security vulnerability. The target's residence was disappointingly simple to breach. Humans, despite their dangerous innovations, remained primitive in their defensive capabilities. "Target approaching," whispered the microscopic comm unit embedded in her inner ear. Lanny pressed herself against the ceiling corner of the living room, her modified musculature allowing her to remain suspended indefinitely in the uncomfortable position. The front door opened, and Dr. Cole Bennett entered. He was shorter than his holographic profile had suggested, with untidy dark hair and tired eyes behind square glasses. He dropped a weathered messenger bag on the couch and rolled his shoulders, wincing at what appeared to be chronic tension. Lanny's targeting system automatically identified 7 lethal strike points, highlighting them in her enhanced vision. The carotid artery pulsed visibly in his neck. One quick slice would end this mission in seconds. But her orders were clear. Observe, confirm the details of his research, then eliminate. The Vexarian High Command needed to know exactly how far his breakthrough propulsion technology had advanced before they erased all evidence of it. Such knowledge in human hands threatened the entire power structure of the Galactic Conclave. Cole moved to the kitchen, humming tunelessly as he filled a kettle. Lanny silently repositioned herself to maintain visual contact, her movements fluid and completely silent. The human seemed entirely unaware of her presence, so close yet invisible. "Computer," Cole called out, "play yesterday's messages while I make dinner." A female computerized voice responded, "You have 3 new messages." The first was from someone named Marcus at the university, discussing mundane academic matters. The second was an automated reminder about a medical appointment. The third caught Lanny's attention. "Cole, it's Adria from the department. The committee reviewed your proposal. They're concerned about potential applications. Call me back, secure line only." Cole sighed heavily, stirring something in a pot. "Of course they're concerned," he muttered to himself. "Heaven forbid we actually solve the energy crisis without militarizing everything first." Lanny narrowed her eyes. This contradicted her mission briefing, which had described Cole Bennett as developing weapons-grade propulsion systems that could destabilize 3 sectors of the galaxy. She logged the discrepancy for further investigation. As night fell, she continued her vigil, watching as Cole worked on complex equations at his dining table, occasionally pausing to pet an aging orange cat that had wandered in through a pet door. His gentleness with the creature was puzzling. Assassins on Vexar were taught that tenderness was weakness, yet this human, supposedly brilliant enough to threaten an entire civilization, spent precious minutes scratching behind the animal's ears, speaking softly to it. Near midnight, Cole finally retreated to his bedroom. Lanny waited until his breathing patterns indicated deep sleep before she moved to his workstation. With practiced efficiency, she bypassed his elementary security measures and began scanning his research files. What she found confused her. The propulsion system designs weren't weapons at all, they were remarkably efficient energy conservation modules. If implemented, they would drastically reduce resource consumption rather than enhance destructive capabilities. Someone had lied in her mission briefing. That never happened. As dawn approached, Lanny retreated to her hiding spot in the attic crawlspace where she had established a minimal operating base. She needed to process this information and decide her next move. The mission parameters were clear: observe, confirm, eliminate, but the justification was now suspect. She had never questioned an assignment before. That simply wasn't part of an assassin's programming. Yet as she closed her eyes for her regulated 4-hour rest cycle, Cole's face appeared in her mind, not as a target, but as a puzzle she couldn't quite solve. 14 days into her surveillance mission, Lanny had memorized Cole's routines. He woke at 6:47 each morning, brewed coffee while listening to classical music, and worked from his home laboratory until late evening. What she hadn't anticipated was how these mundane observations would affect her. From her hiding spot behind the ventilation panel, Lanny watched Cole gently bandage the paw of a small gray kitten he'd found shivering in the rain. "You're going to be okay, little explorer," he whispered, his touch delicate as he wrapped the gauze. "The world can be harsh, but you've got a friend now." Her enhanced hearing picked up the softness in his voice, a tenderness that didn't compute with the dangerous threat described in her mission files. On Vexar, injured creatures were discarded as inefficient. Weakness was culled, not nursed back to health. Later that evening, as rain pattered against the windows, Cole sat at his workbench, frustration evident as he revised calculations. Come on, he muttered, running hands through his disheveled hair. If I can just reduce the energy requirements by another 4%, developing worlds could implement this without breaking their economies. Lanny shifted position, her cloaking field adjusting to the changing light. His research goal was becoming clearer each day, not weapons, but affordable clean energy. The discrepancy between her briefing and reality had grown too significant to ignore. On the 17th day, something unprecedented happened. Cole pulled out an old holograph projector and activated it. A woman's image appeared human with similar features to Cole. "Happy birthday, Mom," he said quietly, his voice cracking. "3 years gone and I still expect you to call." He placed a single flower before the projection. Lanny watched, transfixed, as tears slid down his cheeks. In her 29 years of existence, she'd seen countless beings face death, but always with fear, never this quiet grief that spoke of deep connection. Her bioengineers had deemed attachments unnecessary for her function, had modified her emotional capacity to prioritize mission efficiency. Yet something stirred within her, an unfamiliar ache as Cole wiped his eyes and returned to work with renewed determination. That night she examined her reflection in the bathroom mirror during his sleep cycle, violet eyes with vertical pupils, pale skin with subtle iridescent patterns revealed only under certain light. Her biology was optimized for killing. Retractable bone spurs in her forearms, enhanced muscle density, accelerated healing. She was a weapon given form, nothing more. But weapons didn't feel curiosity or doubt. On the 21st day, Cole received a video call that sent Lanny's threat assessment protocols into overdrive. "The department is concerned about your continued refusal to explore military applications," said a stern-faced woman on the screen. Cole's response was immediate. "That's not what this technology is for, Director. It could provide sustainable energy to billions. Weaponizing it would ensure our nation's security," the woman interrupted. "Your funding comes with expectations, Dr. Bennett." "Then perhaps I need different funding," Cole replied, ending the call. Lanny processed this exchange with growing confusion. Cole was actively refusing to militarize his work, the exact opposite of what her mission implied. As she watched him pace the room, muttering about ethical boundaries and science serving humanity, not destroying it, something unfamiliar bloomed within her engineered heart. That night, breaking all protocols, she descended from her hiding place while he slept. Silent as shadow, she approached his bed. In sleep, his face relaxed, vulnerable. One swift movement and her mission would be complete. Her hand hovered above his throat. But instead, she found herself studying the gentle rise and fall of his chest, the faint smile that appeared as he dreamed. What would it be like to be the cause of such a smile rather than its end? The realization struck like a physical blow. She didn't want him dead. And that treasonous thought would get her recalibrated on Vexar, mind wiped, emotional responses reset. Just as they'd done the last time she'd hesitated on a mission, leaving her with nothing but phantom memories and unexplained scars. As she retreated to her hiding place, Lanny knew with certainty something fundamental had changed within her, and there was no protocol for what came next. Lanny sensed the intruder before her sensors detected it, a subtle disruption in the air currents, the almost imperceptible scent of Vexarian biochemistry. Another assassin. The realization jolted through her system like electrical current. She had been monitoring Cole's kitchen from the hallway ceiling when the silent alarm in her neural implant triggered. The rival faction, the Carmel, had sent their own operative. Unlike her methodical approach, the Carmel were known for swift, brutal efficiency. Their assassins didn't observe, they simply eliminated. Through the window, she glimpsed a shimmer of movement crossing the back garden, the telltale distortion of a cloaking field less sophisticated than her own. Calculations raced through her mind. The intruder would breach the house in approximately 40 seconds. Cole was showering, utterly defenseless. For the first time in her existence, Lanny's primary directive, complete the mission ward with an impulse that had no place in her programming: protect the target. She moved without conscious decision, her cloaking field deactivating as she dropped silently to the floor. Energy reserves diverted to her muscle enhancement systems as she sprinted toward the bathroom door. Cole was just stepping out of the shower when she burst in, his eyes widening in shock at the sight of the iridescent-skinned woman with violet eyes suddenly materializing in his bathroom. "Was no time," Lanny hissed, grabbing his arm. "Someone's coming to kill you. We have 17 seconds." To his credit, Cole didn't waste time questioning her. Perhaps something in her urgency convinced him, or perhaps he'd suspected he wasn't alone all along. He grabbed a towel, wrapping it around his waist as she pulled him toward the bedroom. "Who are you?" he whispered, his voice remarkably steady despite the circumstances. "The first assassin sent to kill you," she replied, truth spilling out as she pushed him toward the closet. "Now hide." The window shattered in the living room. Lanny's retractable bone spurs extended from her forearms, 6-inch natural blades that could slice through most materials. She positioned herself between the bedroom door and Cole's hiding place. The caramel assassin moved with predatory grace, his scaled skin glistening in the dim light as he entered the bedroom. Taller than Lanny by a head, with 4 arms each bearing serrated claws, he was built for swift, messy kills. "Step aside, Vexarian," he growled, voice like gravel. "The human dies tonight." "Your information is outdated," Lanny replied, shifting her weight to an attack stance. "He's under my protection." The assassin's mouth split in a grotesque approximation of a smile. "Defective programming. I'll report it after I finish your mission for you." He launched himself at her with blinding speed, but Lanny had anticipated the move. She sidestepped, slashing at his torso with her bone blades. First blood went to her, but his secondary arms caught her shoulder, claws tearing through her engineered flesh. They fought in near silence, the only sounds their controlled breathing and the impact of strikes. Lanny was faster, but the caramel assassin had reach and raw power. A vicious blow sent her crashing into the wall, pain lancing through her side where his claws had penetrated deeply. The assassin turned toward the closet. "I smell your fear, human," he snarled. Lanny lunged from behind, driving both bone blades into his back with enough force to puncture what passed for lungs in his species. The assassin convulsed, gasping, green fluid leaking from the wounds as he collapsed. Silence fell, broken only by Lanny's labored breathing as she staggered, pressing a hand to her side. The injury was severe, purple blood seeped between her fingers. The closet door opened slowly. Cole emerged, now dressed in hastily pulled-on clothes, his eyes moving from the fallen assassin to Lanny's wounded form. "You're hurt," he said, moving toward her without a trace of fear. "Let me help you." Lanny tried to step back, but her legs buckled. Cole caught her before she hit the floor, his touch gentle yet firm as he helped her to the bed. "Why?" he asked, already examining her wound with clinical precision. "Why save me if you were sent to kill me?" Lanny met his eyes, finding compassion where she expected terror. "Because everything they told me about you was wrong," she replied, her voice weaker than she'd intended. "And I couldn't," she winced as pain shot through her side. "I couldn't let them take your light from the universe." As consciousness began to fade, she felt his warm hand close around hers. "Stay with me," he urged, his voice anchoring her to awareness. "I've got you now." In all her training, all her missions, no one had ever said those words to her before. No one had ever held her hand as though she were precious rather than deadly. As darkness claimed her, one thought remained clear. For the first time in her existence, someone was trying to save her. Lanny awakened to unfamiliar sensations. Softness beneath her, warmth around her, and the absence of pain where there should have been agony. She opened her eyes to find herself in Cole's bed, her torso wrapped in bandages that glowed faintly with a blue light. "Nanogel bandages," Cole's voice came from beside the bed. He looked exhausted but smiled when their eyes met. "From my lab, they're experimental, but they seemed compatible with your biology." Lanny touched the bandages, astonished. "You healed me, after learning I was sent to kill you." "You saved my life," he replied simply. "And you've been watching me for weeks without harming me, haven't you?" "I started to suspect someone was here, little things out of place." She tried to sit up, wincing. Cole moved quickly to help her, his hands steady and gentle on her shoulders. The proximity sent an unfamiliar warmth spreading through her chest, a sensation her training had never prepared her for. 3 weeks, 2 days, she admitted. "I was observing you before execution." "But you didn't execute me." His eyes, a warm brown she now realized, studied her with scientific curiosity and something deeper. "Why?" Lanny looked away, struggling with concepts she'd never been permitted to express. "You were different than described. You care about life, about making things better, not worse. My mission brief said your technology would destroy worlds, but you refused to weaponize it." Cole sat on the edge of the bed, careful not to disturb her wound. "Who sent you, Lanny? That is your name, right? I heard you whisper it while you were healing." "The Vexarian High Command. They made me, enhanced me for assassination." She flexed her hand, the iridescent patterns on her skin catching the light. "My kind aren't born, we're engineered." Understanding dawned in Cole's eyes. "And they control you through misinformation. They told you I was developing weapons to justify my elimination." Yes, the simple truth felt liberating, But each day I watched you, the discrepancies grew. You cry over memories, save injured animals, talk to yourself while cooking. A small smile curved her lips at the memory. You dance terribly when you think no one is watching. Cole laughed, the sound sending another wave of warmth through her. So I've been giving a 3-week audition for my life without knowing it. And you passed, she whispered. They talked through the night, Cole explaining the true purpose of his research, an energy system that would free developing nations from fossil fuel dependence without creating environmental damage. Lanny sharing what little she remembered of her creation, the missions she'd completed believing she was protecting her people from genuine threats. Your wounds are healing remarkably fast, Cole noted as dawn approached, carefully changing her bandages. His fingers brushed against her skin, sending small shivers through her that had nothing to do with pain. Enhanced healing, she explained. I'm designed to sustain damage and continue functioning. You're designed to be disposable, he said, anger flashing in his eyes. That's monstrous. No one had ever been angry on her behalf before. The emotion in his voice touched something deep within her, something the Vexarian engineers had failed to eliminate despite their best efforts. What happens now? Cole asked, his hand lingering on hers after he finished with the bandages. Lanny made no move to pull away. More will come. The rival faction knows their assassin failed. My commanders will realize I've gone silent. Then we need to convince them to stop. He squeezed her hand together. Together, she repeated, the word foreign yet beautiful on her tongue. That evening, as Cole worked on adapting his technology to potentially communicate with Lanny's people, she stood watching him, marveling at his determination to find a peaceful solution. When he finally stopped working, exhaustion evident in the slump of his shoulders, Lanny approached him hesitantly. Following an impulse she didn't fully understand, she reached out, running her fingers through his hair in the way she'd seen him do when stressed. Cole leaned into her touch, eyes closing momentarily. When they opened again, the intensity in them stole her breath. Lanny, he whispered, raising a hand to her cheek. I don't understand what's happening between us, but I've never felt this way about anyone before. I was created to feel nothing, she replied, leaning closer to him, but with you I feel everything. His lips met hers tentatively, a question rather than a demand. Lanny answered by drawing him closer, discovering in his embrace a tenderness that defied everything she'd been programmed to believe about humans, about herself. As the kiss deepened, Lanny realized with perfect clarity that she'd found something worth fighting for, worth risking everything to protect. Not a mission, not an assignment, but something entirely her own, a connection, a choice, a beginning. And for the first time in her existence, the future held possibilities beyond duty and death. The neural transmitter embedded in Lanny's spine activated without warning, sending white-hot pain cascading through her nervous system. She collapsed to her knees in Cole's kitchen, the glass of water she'd been holding shattering on the tile floor. Override protocol initiated, a cold voice spoke directly into her mind. Assassin Unit L4N43, you have deviated from mission parameters. Return to extraction point in 12 Earth hours or face remote termination. The target must be eliminated. Cole rushed to her side, horror washing over his face as he saw the glowing purple veins spreading visibly beneath her skin, her control systems being forcibly accessed. They've found me, she gasped, fighting to maintain control of her own body. Remote override, trying to reactivate my primary programming. Understanding immediately, Cole helped her to his laboratory. Over the past week, they had worked feverishly on a solution, a way to permanently remove the control mechanisms embedded in her biology. Now, that theoretical solution would be tested far sooner than they'd planned. We can do this, Cole assured her, his voice steady despite the fear in his eyes. He prepared the neural disruptor they'd designed together, a delicate fusion of his energy technology and her knowledge of Vexarian bioengineering. If it fails, Lanny whispered, pain etching lines around her violet eyes, I could revert to my original programming. I could hurt you. Cole cupped her face in his hands. You won't. How can you be so certain? Because I love you, he said simply, and whatever they built into your biology, they couldn't account for that. The words washed over her like a physical force, momentarily drowning out the pain. Love. The concept had been deemed unnecessary, dangerous even for assassination units. Yet here it was, offering strength when her engineered body was failing her. I love you too, she replied, the truth of it resonating through her entire being. That's why I can't risk your life. Another wave of pain hit her, and this time her right arm moved without her control, bone spurs beginning to extend. The override was progressing faster than anticipated. Now, Cole, she pleaded, do it now. He hesitated only a moment before activating the disruptor, placing it against the base of her skull where her primary control node was located. A high-pitched whine filled the room as the device powered up, channeling precisely calibrated energy directly into her neural pathways. Lanny screamed, her back arching as electricity and specialized nanites surged through her, seeking out and destroying the Vexarian control mechanisms. Cole held her steady, his tears falling onto her skin as he whispered continuous reassurances. "Stay with me," he urged. "Fight it, Lanny, come back to me." For endless moments, agony consumed her world, then abruptly silence. The pain vanished, leaving Lanny trembling in Cole's arms, her mind eerily quiet for the first time in her existence. The constant background hum of Vexarian control protocols had disappeared. "I'm free," she whispered in disbelief, touching her own face as if to confirm she still existed. Cole helped her to sit up, his hands gentle but shaking. "The transmitter is deactivated, but your commanders will know something's wrong when they can't reach you. They'll send others." Lanny's tactical mind was already assessing threats, but now those assessments were entirely her own. "Both factions will. Your research still threatens their power structure." Cole moved to his workstation, pulling up the completed schematics of his revolutionary energy system. "Then we give them something more valuable than my elimination." Understanding dawned, "A trade." Exactly. His eyes lit with the same passion she'd observed during those early days of watching him work. "We offer them a version of the technology, one that benefits their civilizations without disrupting their power structures. Peace through mutual advantage." Lanny considered this, automatically analyzing potential outcomes, not because she was programmed to, but because she chose to. It could work, but we'd need a direct communication channel with the Vexarian High Command. "Which we now have," Cole replied, gesturing to the modified neural disruptor. "We've essentially created a transmitter tuned to their specific frequency." They worked through the night, Lanny's intimate knowledge of Vexarian politics guiding Cole's message. By dawn, they had crafted an offer that would be difficult to refuse, and backed it with a subtle warning about what might happen if Cole's unmodified research were to suddenly appear across human communications networks. As sunrise painted Cole's laboratory in golden light, Lanny initiated the transmission. Then they waited, her head resting against his chest, his arms wrapped protectively around her. "Whatever happens," Cole murmured into her hair, "we face it together." The response came 3 hours later, terse, threatening but ultimately pragmatic. The Vexarians would accept the modified technology in exchange for cessation of assassination attempts. Verification protocols would be established. Lanny would be classified as decommissioned, no longer their asset but not actively hunted. It wasn't perfect, trust would take time to build, dangers would remain, but it was a beginning. That night, as they lay tangled together in sheets still warm from their lovemaking, Lanny traced the contours of Cole's face in the moonlight. "I was created to bring death," she whispered. "I never imagined I could choose life instead." Cole kissed her fingertips as they passed his lips. "Choice is what makes us who we are, not where we come from or how we began, but what we decide to become." Lanny smiled, violet eyes luminous in the darkness. For 29 years she had been a weapon. Now, in Cole's arms, she was becoming something entirely new, something of her own making. A person with choices, with a future unwritten by anyone but herself. And as she claimed his lips in another kiss, Lanny knew with perfect certainty that this connection, this love, this freedom to choose, was worth every risk she had taken and every risk still to come. This was just their beginning.